Hello and welcome back to Over the Top, an Overthrow produced podcast where you get a glimpse into the conversations that I get to have every day with players and coaches. If you get value from listening to this podcast, I would just ask that you leave a review for us on the platform that you're listening on. And if you get value from Andrew, it would be super helpful for him if you would subscribe to his channel on YouTube. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then that link is in the description below. So without further ado, let me introduce you to one of the OGs, still a G in the disc golf coaching scene, lover of Kung Fu movies, I think, and the only guy that I know that has 3 aces in a single day. Andrew, better known by his YouTube name, Seabas. When it comes to disc golf and form mechanics, I'm pretty sure you sit at the top of the game, or at least in my estimation. I have learned that even if I don't understand what you say in the beginning, I should probably just believe it and then figure out the rest later. So super pumped to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
I wouldn't have ever dreamed of having this podcast without having you on it. It's just like from the beginning, it's like I'm going to kind of build up and try to get my chops up before I pull you in, actually, so that I could get everything, every last drop and nugget out of this that I could. So
Cool.
Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I think, so you're a long time OG of the coaching world. You've been doing it for how long?
I guess coaching probably about 2010. So
Yeah, 2010. And I think you're kind of the longest standing of the OGs. I think are there any that are still like as active in the community as you? Because you're still plugging away super strong.
Probably.
You're probably the only one left, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I just don't know. And you're going to help us later with kind of like disc golf history and giving me a framework for this and giving our audience a framework for this. But yeah, I couldn't think of anyone else. I was like, man, maybe there is somebody out there that's still doing it, but I'm just not aware. So the breadth of your work, and if you're not familiar with Seabass, he's got so much work, so many hours into the sport, and we're going to dive into a little bit of your history here. And we're going to start actually with Disc Golf Course Review, which was merged from Disc Golf Review, right?
Right. Kind of.
Yeah. So you're going to have to help me with this because that world is totally foreign to me. But I think maybe a fair description of that is that it's a very text-driven media like Twitter or Reddit. And so you've got all these posts on there and people, you can put pictures and things like that on as well, but it's basically just threads of text. Is that fair?
Yeah, so the first place I found was DGR, Disc Golf Review. And I was looking for like disc reviews. I was like, what the hell's a Banshee do? Or like these weird names. And then after that, I found Disc Golf Course Review. And that was like searching courses that was better than the PDGA directory, which was terrible back then. But so technique wise, I didn't find DGR until like after back and forth between those two websites.
So Disc Golf Review, you were using to find courses, and you actually use that a bunch because you've reviewed 197 courses.
Other way around. So that was Disc Golf Course Review.
Oh, that was Disc Golf Course Review. Okay.
Right.
So so tell me, I don't understand the DGR. Which one is that?
Disc Golf.
Disc Golf Review.
Right. No course.
Okay. So what happened on Disc Golf Review? What was that platform for?
I mean, like originally it was just to find what disc did, disc reviews. But then I found the technique part of it, and I was like, oh, wow, there's a whole lot of info in here. And it was basically what Blake learned from Dave Dunapace on like the old PDGA forums. So
Okay.
that's where all that came from.
Okay. And so Disc Golf Course Review is the one that houses everything now, though,
Pretty
right?
much.
There was
Yeah.
some kind of merge that happened there,
Right.
where it was the owners of Disc Golf Review are also the owners of Disc Golf Course Review, and they pulled all the forum information over.
Well, DGR lost its like I don't know what you call it, domain or whatever, or didn't want to keep paying
Mm-hmm.
for it anymore. So then the owner of DGCR is like, well, we can host the website or whatever. So they just picked it up.
Gotcha. So, but the Disc Golf Course Review one is where you're doing where you have done a huge bulk of your coaching, right? Your interaction with students, at least.
Yeah, did some on
And
both,
then, yeah, and then YouTube came later, right?
pretty much.
Okay. So your first post in Disc Golf Course Review. Now, I want to see if you, well, first off, I want to see if you have any guesses, and you might know this. I wouldn't be surprised if you knew this. How many posts you have in Disc Golf Course Review? Do you already know?
Mm, several thousands.
Okay. Okay. So you don't know an exact number. This is perfect. Okay. So I want people at home to guess as well. I'm going to give some contextual clues to help you guess. So your first post was in 2008. So 15 years ago. Do you remember what your first post was?
Oh, to the forum itself, it's probably a technique question.
Or just your first post ever?
Might have been a forum review.
Your first post said something to the effect of, I've never hit someone with a disc. 15 years ago. So, is that statement still true, by the way?
No.
So tell us about that. Who was the poor, unfortunate soul?
Uh, there's a couple. Wasn't too bad. It was usually just like a putter.
Okay. Yeah. Give us the details.
It was never a drive. It was maybe a perch shot or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, first time I got hit with the disc, I took this guy out to go play for his first time, and I had given him a DX Shark, which doesn't have the dullest of edges, certainly not the sharpest, but I was looking for his disc 40 feet up the fairway, and I was like, dude, I was sure it landed right here. And then I go to turn to him, and as I turn to him, I get clocked right underneath the eye
Oh,
from like 40 feet away. And I'm like, dude, I was looking for your disc. Like, what are you doing? And so he was just standing there like, yeah. Okay. So, you have hit somebody. It's been from close range. No
I'll tell
serious
you,
injuries that you
I
know
hit
of.
someone last year in a tournament. Well, we were warming up for a tournament, and so we were just putting at the basket. Actually, I was throwing a drive. It was like a 200-foot hole or something,
Mm-hmm.
and I hit him in the leg. He was like, "Hey, you hit me!" And then he threw it back at me. And later on, we ended up being on the same card. And he's like, he grabbed my banger. He's like, "You're the guy that hit me earlier."
At least it was just a banger.
Yeah.
Okay, now second hint to how many posts that you've had on Disc Golf Course Review, or context. So Ace at Disc Golf, your student, my probably my very best coaching colleague on the forum side. I mean, we talk all the time. Uh you probably don't know what you've created. I mean, you probably do know what you've created, but yeah, we talk for hours. We can't get off a phone call without it being at least an hour and a half.
Jeez.
Um, so he just recently hit his 2000th post on Disc Golf Course Review, and you guys worked together on the 108-page dissertation, I'm going to call it, on the good swing. So, and he was really pumped. He was like wearing it like a badge of honor, like 2000 posts. I just hit it. I'm like, bro, I cannot even imagine 2000. Okay, so what is your guess on how many posts you've made?
Probably close to 30,000.
Okay. All right. Is that your final answer?
I'm going under.
It is under 30,000, but it is in the tens of thousands. It's 21,418 posts. My gracious, dude. Where do you find the time for that?
A lot of time hanging out in my basement here.
Yeah. Dude, I'm pretty sure I've read like five disc golf course review posts, and I'm pretty sure you've sent me all five. So, another one of your earlier posts, you were mentioning that you only threw forehands off the tee. You were just forehand drive,
Yep.
which is super interesting because of who you're known as now. You're known as probably like the backhand mechanics guy. And so you had said, I only throw forehands off the tee, and then you'd mentioned some like pain in your thumb. What went from that forehand guy only to, okay, I have every drill under the sun for the backhand that you could ever want or imagine?
What was the question?
The question is like, what took you from there? I'm forehand dominant off the tee. I don't throw backhands off the tee. What took you from there to I am Seabas22. I'm like predominantly known for backhand mechanics.
So basically, I couldn't figure out the backhand throw, and I was getting all kinds of like pain in my neck and my shoulder, throwing my arm out, my neck out, and so went online trying to figure out like what are people doing. Well, actually, before all that, like before YouTube, I was asking some of the local players like, "How do you throw backhand?" They're like, "I don't know." It's like, all right, so I just got to figure it out myself, and so from there, I just went to DGR. Well, I guess DGCR first, and then back to DGR. And that's where I found a lot of the information and stuff like that.
Yeah, I kind of gathered this from your style of coaching a little bit, and also from talking to John. It was kind of injury, I guess, injury and avoiding injury that led you to like really deep dive
Hmm.
into it and get really passionate about it, right? The read that kind of I have on you is like you really, really want people to have efficient swings so that they don't hurt themselves.
Right. So,
And everything that you're doing, all the information you take in, all of the time that you spend is like driven by that passion predominantly.
right. So there's definitely things you can do to like amp up the swing more, but they're just more prone to injury and stuff like that.
Yeah. So this is something I thought we might talk about later, but it makes sense to talk about now. Um, so there are kind of two throwing methods that I see, and you uh, per the usual, you're gonna have to excuse my lack of coaching terminology. Um, but I see like a very speed based swing and speed based throw, I'll say, where it's high effort but potentially more output. And then I see a leverage based, which is the camp I would put you in, where it's like, okay, we've got this very gravity swingy based pendulum style where it's very easy to learn the rhythm, where it's very easy to learn where the power comes from and is generated. And it's very tough to get injured there because it's like either you generate the power or you don't. Not surely not impossible, but the risk is much, much lower. Comments on that? Do you kind of agree that you're in a like a swingy style camp versus a throw style, like maybe Chris Taylor, we would say? They're like there are things that you can do. It's a more aggressive form on the body, at least more aggressive.
I mean, I don't know if there's like a certain camp of this and that, but there's things that are not so good, or I'm not sure how to put it, but like I don't think like Chris is teaching anything dangerous or anything like that.
Right, right. It's just the reason I brought Chris in is just because like there are explosive moves and like it is tough on your body. Like for example, the extended plant. Like the teaching of an abrupt stop on the brace is like totally happening at the pro level, right? These guys are stopping on a dime. Wiggins is going up super quick and then boom, stops on a dime. And for the average person, if you give them that instruction first, probably most people get hurt trying to get to the proper form.
Um, yeah, it depends on the cue, I guess you give a player, but like I don't think of it as like a stop. It's a changing of direction.
Yeah, it's a redirect.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Which I would agree. And I think Chris would agree. I think the terminology and stuff that you use would the cues that you use are super important. I don't think anybody's saying that they're not. Um, but just in terms of swing versus, I guess, throw, you prefer to use technology, swing terminology versus throw terminology, for example, because throw terminology in your mind is that like a worse cue because of the injury aspect?
I don't think that. I don't have a problem with throw or swing.
Mm,
Pull's kind of iffy.
okay. Yeah, so give me an example. Maybe I'm going about this the wrong way. Give me an example of something that you think this is you can get more power doing this, but you're going to get hurt probably.
Um, Trying to think of like when I got hurt, I was doing like the right pec drill, the old Vito drill,
Mhm.
and the way I was shifting my weight was coming over the top. So I was just pounding into my shin, and then I ended up fracturing my tibia.
Dude, you have had some injuries. And, and I want to ask you about the broken ribs thing in person, but yeah, so the idea of this shifting the weight on top of the foot, now your foot has nowhere to go, your body has no way to redirect that energy
Right.
issue. So that's mostly what you're talking about. Let's see. So I'm trying to wrap my brain kind of around this. You go towards, yeah, of course, that would be it. So it seems to me almost like the issue is not in your mind a methodology issue, unless that methodology, of course, comes with certain teachings. It's more of like a case by case, drill by drill, cue by cue issue in your mind.
Right. Like methods I don't really believe in. Like you have to fit a perfect mold to do a perfect method or whatever like that. So it's more like Bruce Lee's philosophy. You take this from here, take that from there, and make it your own.
Yes. Yeah, I'm super happy you said that because that's kind of what I try to do. It's like I don't really have a method. People ask all the time, what's your coaching philosophy or what is your methodology? And it's like, do you build from the ground up? And actually, this is what I should be asking you is, do you always build from the feet first or do you build back from the hits sometimes? Do you have a way that you like to build the swing? It seems, well, I'll just let you answer that.
So, I mean, if you were starting from scratch, where would you start? I think it depends on the student. Um, Usually, no feet is better than doing any kind of footwork. So basically, just standing still, but moving your body still, um, or not still, moving your body. So, um, from there, like the old school was you just work on the hit, the final lever. But I think that more happens just by getting everything synced up from your whole body. So it's just like a flow of energy going out.
Hmm. So that's with a new player, because you just kind of set them in their position. It's like, put your feet here. Don't be so tight. Sway a little bit, rock a little bit, and then you focus on probably upper body, depending on what you see. And so with a player who's already got some skin in the game, been in the game a couple of years, do you start from the ground up? Do you kind of look what's happening? Take me through that.
Well, it depends on what their problem is. So, like a common issue is throwing the nose up air bounce. And so a lot of that has to do with where you're actually aiming, which is down, and you're just relying on the nose up to make the disc go up. So you're going to be coming over the top doing that, and then it just amplifies and you get worse and worse. Throw more overstable plastic. Um, so that player, I'd have him throw like something super understable on a massive hyzer. And so it's basically like doing the opposite. You got to tilt back and then throw upward. So it's kind of extreme opposite, basically.
Yeah, you just see where they're at with the pendulum, pun intended, and swing it the other way.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Um, cool. Okay, that's good to know because what I see a lot from your YouTube videos and all that is very pendulum style, and this is the kind of trouble with YouTube as when you're trying to put out content. It's like you've got this audience which is thousands of people, and you've got a topic that you're trying to tell them about, but you've got to treat these thousands of people as if they're one person.
Right.
And so your voice coming across your YouTube and your disc golf course review and stuff like that is very swing, like you kind of go swing, gravity, efficiency, feeling the rhythm
Mm-hmm.
with players is kind of your natural voice to YouTube. But you're like with individual students, which there have been a cajillion, you swap in and out just as need be.
Right.
Right. This is funny. I was talking to John earlier today. Oh, I wasn't supposed to tell you that. I was talking to John at some point about switching in and out, and it's like, man, if you get a student in there, you get two of your students that have never talked to each other. I'm sure you have this same feeling. One would say, "Oh, Andrew told me to do this," and then the other one on the same, seemingly the same problem, would say, "No, no, no, he wants you to do the opposite."
Right.
And you seem like a schizophrenic.
And then you can even say the same thing but say differently, and they think it's a completely different thing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I like that. Okay. Um, so to your coach, so back to your early formative years, 2008, 2009, 2010 era, where you were learning, you were seeking out stuff, local pros, not a help, no surprise. Um, did you find a coach? Was that Blake? Is like who did you look to for information?
First person, I don't know if it was DGCR or DGR. Might have been Craig Gangloff. I don't know if you know who he is.
I've never heard of Craig.
He got like fourth at USDGC, like 2000. Um, he's actually a local player, but I didn't really know him that well because he's not really that local. And I would never play the course he was at. And so he gave me some advice. He was like, "Oh, your hips trailing," and I'm like, "What does that mean?" So I had to go look it up and see what he was talking about. And I was like, "Okay, I see what he's talking about now." And then so from there, I went back to DGR, I think, and JR was on there. I don't know if you know who he is.
No, you're gonna have to tell me every person on Disc Golf Course Review and their backstories.
So this is DGR and JR, Yanni Rossaman, I think. He would do like the camera for 8. You don't know that channel, do you?
No, my first. So to date me so you can properly stack me. My first like YouTube stuff was Central Coast back when.
8. I think that's right. I got the letters mixed up. They were like the first YouTube channel media, and it was
Okay,
finished.
actually, I do know them now that you said it like that. I don't know how you said it before. If you said it the same exact way, I
Might be
totally
different.
missed it.
So yeah, he did the camera work or some of the camera work for them, and he got like videos of Avery and stuff like that. Um, but he would just do like these really long-winded posts, and nobody could understand what he's talking about. So that was interesting, trying to figure out what he was saying some of the time. Um,
I totally get that. That's like every time you send me a disc golf course review post, I'm like, what is happening here?
what are you talking about?
It's a whole new language in there. I'm like, dang.
So yeah, JR was on DGR. I don't know if anyone else was really commenting on my thread on there. Um, Garu Blader on DGCR would help out some, and I haven't heard what he's been doing for like a decade now. Um, I had Dave Dunapace do a form check once.
Dang.
Um,
That's some street cred right there.
that was probably like 2011 or 12, I think.
Okay, so it seems to me like it was very piecemealed.
Hmm.
It's like you nobody really had you didn't have a specific coach. You you just kind of took little bits and pieces that you could from every little place and kind of pieced it all together.
Hmm.
Dang. Now, do you do that in every aspect of your life? I've kind of got this theory that there's a trend with coaches to where it's like they just had to learn how to do stuff on their own.
Well, yeah, I think like even working on your own form, being a student of the game is going to help you. So I think a lot of people actually know more than they think they know, or other cases they know or they don't know what they don't know.
Right. So are you saying that in the way that they know more than they think they know, like they know more than enough to move their form along?
Well,
Or like,
like top pros, like people always think they don't know what they're talking about, but oftentimes I think they do. But what they say just gets lost in translation.
okay, I'm with you because I actually have come to this realization myself not too long ago to where in the beginning I was like, what are these guys talking about? These guys have no clue what they're saying. There's like no validity to this. It's just I was looking at the reel and I'm seeing like, okay, this is happening. This doesn't seem like it makes any sense. What are they saying? Are they it to me it looked like one pro said something at one point and we don't know who it was, and then everybody else just copied it, right? And so they were just like, "Oh, what do you teach during your clinics? Oh, I'm going to teach that during mine." What do you, that's in my mind what was happening.
Right.
And now, sorry, go ahead.
Like take Paul Macbeth for example. Like he's always working on his mechanics, and he's analyzing his own videos and trying different things. So I mean, talk about student of the game. That's Paul right there.
Yeah, I have actually spent a decent amount of time talking to Paul, and this is back in the day. It's not like current, but when I was first getting into it, I spent like a decent amount of time with him, and he would tell. I was like, "How do you work on this? How do you work on this?" And he would tell me, like, "I just did this," or someone told me this. Like, someone told me, uh, and he'll just go through and say, "Yeah, I would grab this pole on my way up, and then I'd move past it. Like you move past the disc, blah blah." That's actually where the reach back. There's no reach back video came from, right? It's kind of this idea, and it's like this is how Paul Macbeth practiced it, and I think with a lot of pros, I started realizing it's like, okay, they're not really just making this up. Like there's some validity in some way, shape, or form. I just don't understand how it's valid because my mind doesn't think like that. And most of the time, it's what they're saying is the best cue to get you to do the reel.
Right.
So like straight line moves. It's like, okay, I can look at it and we can look at your videos and we can see like, okay, wide arc, narrow arc, all these things. Like that's an arc. That's not, that's not a straight line. But then you look at it and you try to move the disc linearly and it's like, well, shoot dang. If that cue didn't work and get you to do the arc properly, I don't know what did.
Right. Like swinging a hammer. Are you trying to make it do that arc, or is it just the way things happen?
Right. Yeah, so there's like sometimes you have to work on little mechanics and then other times it's like these pros just they have the cue. Like if you're listening to a pro talk, they they really are thinking the thing that they're saying that they're thinking
And they've
to
tried
do the
everything.
thing that they're doing. Yeah. Especially the pros that we have now. They tried everything and it got them to where they're at. So yeah, it took me admittedly a little while, but now I'm like, oh, this is why they're talking about pulling in a straight line. Oh, this is why they're talking about going into a field and throwing their arm off. It's like there's a reason for this, and I just have to understand. Like you're saying, it was lost in translation. It was to me. I was the one not understanding the translation. So yeah, I can get with that. Took me a long time to figure that out. So okay. Okay, so from Disc Golf Course Review, you started your YouTube channel not too long after that. From it looks to me like you started about a year after your Disc Golf Course Review, your first post there.
Um, I don't think that was like instructional videos or anything. That was just me working on my form.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you did start the channel. Now, was that just like you working on your forum, and that was just a convenient place for you to then post that link to Disc Golf Course Review?
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So when did that change for you?
So I wish I still had some of the older videos.
No, you deleted them.
Yeah, they're all gone. I can't find them anywhere.
Oh no.
I was like, yeah, I used to do that exactly. And then I was like, I can't find the video.
Just because you couldn't stand to look at it?
Well, why I deleted it? Or,
Yeah,
um, I was just cleaning up the videos on the channel.
I gotcha. Yeah, is that because you changed your mind on things or because you found better ways to explain it?
No, these were just, form videos. Oh,
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Gotcha. So it was just all those later form videos because you didn't clean up everything
okay.
on the YouTube channel.
I don't think I did any instructionals until like 2013 or 14.
Okay, so 5 years later, basically, after you started into your form journey on the
Hmm.
backhand. So you spent 5 years learning the backhand, and then you decided, I'm going to go instructional.
Hmm. Yeah,
Why?
help people.
Okay. And they were asking you at this point, or you were just like, I know I can help people. I'm going.
I was doing a lot on DGCR at that time, but I was just having to like repeat myself over and over again. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do a video on this.
Yeah. Yeah. I was kind of wondering, like, videos are kind of a convenient way to just be like, yo, I've already said this and I'm tired of writing it out, but also I want to help you. Watch it.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So on your YouTube channel, first off, take me into the name Seabass. Now you've got swimming videos on your channel from you swam for Tennessee.
Towson.
Who?
Towson.
Towson. Okay, Mikey was asking if it was Tennessee.
Baltimore.
We're simple people here. We see a T, and that means Tennessee, I guess. Okay, so you were swimming for Towson. Is that where Seabass22 came from?
No.
Okay, where is this name? Why?
Came from high school because that was when Dumb and Dumber came out. So
Okay.
this is like before I even had a email. Like,
I gotcha.
I was internet invented back then? I think, yeah, I don't even think I had a computer then.
Let's see.
When
Computers, personal
I
computer
might have
would have
had like a
been,
386 processor
yeah.
before
Okay.
Pentium.
So it was a Dumb and Dumber reference.
Yeah, but
Gotcha. This is kind of pegging. This is good because this is kind of pegging me in your genre. Like your taste in movies has not changed much since then,
right.
has it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll still watch it when it comes on.
So Seabass was the Dumb and Dumber reference. We got that already. So on your YouTube channel, you have 213 videos, going back 14 years. Now, 192 of those videos are disc golf specific videos. So, uh, course stuff, slow mo, instruction, right? But what I'm actually most interested is stuff that's contained in the non disc golf videos. Specifically, there's a video with you setting what I believe is the world record in this game, Kaboom.
I was trying to.
Tell me, what went into that preparation for this. But tell us about the game and tell us what preparation you did for that, because that looked absolutely insane.
So, do you know what Atari is? 2600?
Yes.
So,
Yeah, you were sliding that
that,
thing like crazy.
that's my era of
Yeah.
video game. Um, so Kaboom, you're just trying to slide the bucket back and forth, trying to catch the mad bomber throwing the bombs down. And it's probably my favorite game growing up. It's just addictive.
I could tell. I mean, you were really cranking that thing. I was surprised. I was like, what is he playing on?
You could find like a rhythm in there, so I could feel what way he was gonna juke.
Yeah. And in that moment, the rhythmic disc golf coach was born.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. You're yeah, it was super fun to watch. Just how crazy fast it went. Anyways, fun video if you guys want to go on a little sidetrack before he takes it down.
But I did that because someone didn't believe me I could score that high, so I had to do it and prove it to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Are you a very chip on your shoulder kind of guy? Like, go ahead, put that chip on my shoulder and I'll prove you wrong.
Pretty much. I mean, everything I've ever done, I sucked at first, and then
Mm,
I would find my way to improve.
right. Yep. I could feel that. Birds of a feather in that matter. Um, okay. Uh, if you were pressed to pick one video on your channel for people who have never watched your channel before that are listening right now, what would be the one channel you would want them to pick? There's one channel, one video you
Video.
would want them to pick.
um, there's probably the most info in power posture.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah. That one's kind of like a standalone video. You don't have like too many. I mean, they all kind of can stand alone, right? But you prefer to, you're sending videos to people in the context of a conversation you've already had with them,
Pretty much.
right? But that one, you can pretty much go in, no context, no conversation, no understanding of what you're looking for and get a whole lot out of it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Power posture is great. It reminds me of something I'm sure you remember. One of our first YouTube interactions, which was on one of our videos, which is now unlisted because I've reneged, and like most things, I'm like, okay, Andrew was right. Where I was coaching some guy on backhand, I think, and he was spinning out like crazy, and you're like, his posture's messed up, and I was like, I don't care as long as he saves his knee. I don't care if he spins out. Like, let's do this. And you're like, posture's 101, bro. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't get it. I mean, I was going back and forth trying to understand what you're saying. I'm like, there's just no way. I just didn't see it. So, yeah, every time you've written something, I've taken it and I've like examined it. I just might not have believed it at first. But yeah. Do you remember that at all?
Our first interactions, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not surprised. I'm pretty sure you've got the mind of an elephant.
Still,
Um, yeah. Okay. Now, there's a little bit of a lead up to this next question, so bear with me. First, let me ask you, how many fundamental positions in the backhand do you see, roughly?
I wouldn't call it positions.
Okay, how many fundamentals do you see?
Uh, it's hard to say. I mean, balance is a fundamental. Leverage. Those are probably the two basics.
I've got you. I've got you. Okay, so this is interesting to me, which I don't know why this is kind of surprising me, because I would call Chris Taylor, for example, a positional coach. It's very, get into this position. Whatever you have to do, get into this position. Right. I think that's a fair shake to Chris, having talked to him.
So you know ball golf?
I
Like
I do know golf.
they have
I
P1, P2, P3.
that's how I imagine ball golf. I didn't know that they actually called it P1, P2,
Mhm.
P3. But Chris Taylor, coming from that world, obviously teaches that same way. And tennis is not too different. But tennis is some weird in between of that and uh, what what you tend to go to, whereas like a fundamental is it's a principle, it's a concept of
Movement.
balance of yeah. Okay, so I get you. Now your drills then are learning. All of your drills then go inside of those two fundamentals, right? Of basically balance and leverage,
Hmm.
right? And so posture is kind of inside balance, right?
And it gives you leverage.
And it gives you leverage. Okay, I'm tracking. Okay, I like that. I understand why Danny was like, "Oh, this stuff was all field based when I got in here," because you are very field based, and I can see that now. Okay, so if right, back on track, Josh. Okay, so I feel like if someone was looking for any info on any part of the backhand, you have a video on it.
Probably not everything.
Okay, now I'm super interested. What don't you think you have video on yet?
I mean, I've probably done it. It's on my hard drive. I have probably, I don't know, 1,000 hours of unedited video, but I'm too lazy to do all the editing, Mikey.
Dude, I'm sure you could get somebody to edit that for you. It's not going to be Mikey, but someone will. Wait, so you're just sitting on hours and hours and hours of content, and it's just like, you don't even record new stuff anymore. It's not like, oh, I got to record something. It's like, I got stuff, just needs to be edited.
Well, that and I'd like to redo a lot of it because the mic sucked and stuff like that.
Mm, yeah, because for those who don't know, you're an audio guy,
Hmm.
right? What is your job?
So I do uh, audio, video, system design for like churches and government buildings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see where the technological brain is coming into play there. But also, wow, this is interesting because it's audio, so it's like sound design oriented, right? So
Mhm.
there's creative aspect to that as well.
Right.
Very interesting. Hmm. Loop Ghost. I forget what his job is, but he's also very technical, right? His job is some techie type thing,
I don't remember what he does exactly.
but
Construction,
it's like,
building.
yeah, it's something uh rigid like that, similar to engineering, right?
That's why I
But he's
got
a
the
musician.
sledgehammer in the last video.
Right. Yeah, but he's a musician as well. Okay. Interesting.
I'm not
Hey,
a
I mean,
musician.
but you're doing that audio engineering.
I,
So
I have a
there's the
good ear.
creative
I can
aspect.
tell you if it's in tune.
Right. Yeah, but the creative side is what I'm getting at. Is like there's this creativity as well as, kind of knowledge portion in modifying drills and stuff for your students. Very interesting. Okay. Um, right. But yeah, I've back to your point of like you're just sitting on stuff. Like what's the goal? Is the goal? Do you feel like okay? I'm. You said you got thousands and thousands. Like you got 1,000 hours of unedited footage, not thousands and
Yeah,
thousands,
it's
but
not that.
you got a ton.
A ton.
You got a lot. Enough for how many videos? 100?
Got a 500 gig hard drive.
A lot. I don't know gigs, but I know 500 is a lot. And okay, so you're not even close to being like okay, I've put out everything I need to put out on the backhand.
Well, I never did anything specific for like YouTube learning. Like it was always a drill here and a drill there, but it was never like I guess how I would go about starting from scratch or something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's just so tough to do. I really valued John's beginner playlist for a long time. That's just tough. Are you planning on making one?
Possibly.
Okay, but it's kind of there. It's like, okay, I don't know if I'll get to it, but I would like to.
Yeah, I need time.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so, talking about time, you're modern day coaching. So we've got YouTube, you've got 192 disc golf videos on there. You've got more ready to fire. Um, you're currently coaching people, right? I know you coach John.
Hmm.
Obviously, how many people are you currently coaching?
I don't know.
Okay, is it kind of sporadic? Is it like, oh, a message here, a message there? Do you have it like what's kind of the protocol that you go through for this?
I have no structure, so
Okay,
I
the
don't like
structure is chaos.
I don't like commitments and structure.
I gotcha. Interesting with your occupation. Yeah. So I know that in your time on disc golf course review that over you've coached over 2,000 people. Um, don't ask me how I know that. If you guys want to fact check me, you are welcome to go through there. But I've got on very good sources that it's over 2,000 people, which is a ton. And
That's
I understand like the non-committal nature about it. What would it take for you to say, hey, do you even want to be full-time coach at some point? Are you like, okay, I'll finish my job at some point and then I'll go full-time coach disc golf? Or is this always the place disc golf coaching has for you?
um, it's kind of weird because like I don't like coaching really. But
Oh, what?
like when I was swimming, I had like tons of offers to coach swimming, and I was just like, no, I'm so burnt out of that. I can't. That and like being stuck inside of a humid pool, I'm like, no. Maybe if I could get
Wow.
in there and actually show people like how to do it, but it's just different.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, if you guys, you smoked everybody in that race in the Seabass Flies video. It's like probably his 8th video on the channel. So just sort by oldest, go there and watch him put the smack down on people. I mean, you're a pretty good swimmer.
So I was number 2 in Maryland behind the goat.
Michael Phelps.
Yeah,
Wow. Where did that come from?
that was
You know,
technique.
yeah, that's crazy. No offense, but I would never look at you and be like, this guy was a swimmer. I just know it.
Yeah, most people
Right?
thought I was like a football player.
Yeah, or a baseball player. I thought you were a big hitter. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So you don't even like coaching really. Like you would never want to do it full time.
I don't think I could do it now.
Wow. That is really interesting.
Like watching someone field practice, it's like I don't know if you've seen Happy Gilmore.
A long time ago, but yes.
And Chubbs, the guy who's trying to instruct Pappy at the beginning. He had the
Mm,
broken hand or the alligator hand.
okay. Yes, only because of memes actually can I remember him.
So in like the very beginning of the movie, he's giving a lesson to this lady, and he's like just staring at a paper or a magazine. He's just, yep, it's all in the hips. Yep. He's not even watching what she's doing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of my boss Peter. He was a really good tennis player. This is back in the country club days. So he was a really good tennis player. Just didn't travel enough to, didn't want to spend the money and the time doing that much traveling to make it higher than like 200. Which, that's just, obviously you're a chump if you're top 200 in the world. But, he's like, dude, he got towards the end of where he was ready to retire. It's like, man, there's just so many times that you can go get your racket here, drop it, brush up, follow through before it's like you've seen it all before.
Right.
Like practice. So, yeah, I kind of feel that. So, if you don't like coaching that much, then why are you still doing it? So what is the compulsion that drives you? What is the thought that's like, I have to respond to this? And instead of just saying like, hey, you know, Drake Evans or whoever's on there is going to take care of it.
Um, so I guess part of it is I just don't like seeing wrong technique or uh, someone's going to hurt themselves or something like that. So I don't know. I like.
Right. So my follow-up question to that would be, okay, you don't like seeing wrong technique. I don't like seeing wrong technique either. Lots of people don't like seeing wrong technique, and everybody's got ideas on what right technique is. But why do you feel like if you don't enjoy it, why do you feel like you want to chime in instead of just saying, hey, go talk to such and such coach? Do you have a coach that you feel like you can say, hey, go talk to so and so? Do you have somebody that's like, hey, they'll get you in the right direction? Or is it because there's not that person that you feel there that you're still doing it?
It would depend on what the issue is, I guess.
For example,
Um,
let's go T-ball here. Give me an issue that you'd be okay sending them to someone else for.
I don't know.
This is t- this is I'm digging at your heart right here.
These are things I never really think about.
Yeah. Well,
Not sure how to answer.
yeah. Have you ever sent anybody to another coach for an issue?
Don't think
Like, for
so.
example, I've got students that I was teaching virtually that are in Colorado. And it's like, oh, wait a second. Why are you taking a virtual lesson when you've got Jason right there? Like, that's way better. And this guy knows his stuff. Obviously, you know, I trust Jason's knowledge and to move people forward. So I say, hey, like, let me give you this guy's number, right? Is it because, it's easy for me to look at Jason and be like, hey, go talk to Jason because I know he's solid. Is it like, man, are you feeling like, man, if I don't help this person, nobody will, right? Or nobody will help get them there. Or is it something else?
So I guess like basic stuff, just trying to improve. Like I recommended some local pros before. Um, it's, I mean, it's if you want like in person, I guess. Then I would say go check out your local pro, see what they're doing.
Sure. Which you don't know the local pros, right? So it's not a knowledge thing. Because you're just saying go get in-person stuff if you want in-person stuff. But for some reason, you're still doing it. There's some compulsion there, and you just don't know what the compulsion is yet. And I guess you don't have to have an answer, and maybe this will make you think of it. But
I want to see people do better.
right. Yeah, so for me, my goal is I don't care if they get the information from me specifically. There are people that I won't send them to, but if I know that, like, man, this person would be a better fit for, John, for example, maybe this person's like really technically minded and they're just like, and I'm trying to pull them into feel, and it's just, there's some mental stumbling block there. It's like, okay, hey, you know what? We've worked together a little bit, and this just doesn't seem to be working that great for you. I think you should consider going to my buddy John. You guys, I think similar. I think this might be a good fit to at least try and see if there's a better tool for this problem here. So I don't know. I'm willing to do that, and I'm not saying that you're unwilling to do that. I have no clue. It's just for some reason, it's just interesting to me that you go, I don't enjoy doing this. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I'd rather them just like, I'm putting the info out there actually to put myself out of business, which I understand because I kind of do that. Same thing with our videos. It's like there's a backend playlist. I'm trying to put myself out of business, but also I enjoy coaching. Yeah,
I mean,
it's just interesting to me.
there's just different aspects to it, I guess, that are more enjoyable. Like,
Yeah.
I just can't stand there and field practice and watch someone throw. I mean, I've done it, but it's just boring to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've said it a cajillion times, but it is interesting to me. And I guess it's interesting to me because I don't understand it.
I
Which,
guess probably because I don't have a lot of free time and I'd rather be playing myself than watching someone else play.
right, right. But you'd have even more free time if you stopped coaching altogether. So why not stop coaching altogether?
Well, I do that at night.
Okay. Yeah. It's going to remain a mystery.
Maybe I am Batman.
That maybe to me, it feels like you've got this, it feels like there needs to be someone filling the void, and it needs to happen. It needs to be done. I'm just going to do it. It feels very dutiful.
I'll take that.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking about you, brother. I'm thinking, man, if you don't like it and you don't want to like go do something that's fun. I don't want you to leave. I'm not saying leave. I'm just thinking, it's interesting that you just are going to do something that you don't enjoy that much.
Well, I'm not doing what I don't enjoy. I do the parts I like doing.
Okay. So what are the parts you like doing? And then what are parts you dislike doing?
Um, well, dislike is obviously just watching someone in the field throw.
Yes.
So what I do like is just figuring out what they're doing wrong. So I guess I'm a perfectionist kind of, or I
Yeah.
definitely used to be when I was growing up. But then I kind of learned to not care in certain things. But uh, I guess it's kind of like an obsession.
Right. Yeah. For me personally, I'm a puzzle guy. I enjoy figuring out how things work.
Right,
I don't, I, it's not even the, like, oh, that works great. It's like by the time it works, I really don't care that much.
right.
It's the, what is, what's happening here? Why is it doing this? How can I make this happen? For me, the interesting part of coaching is every person's a slightly different problem,
Mm-hmm.
right? And to me, I don't want to do the coaching. I don't want to do the part of coaching that's like, okay, here's like, let me just tell everybody the same exact thing all the time. And it's like, I've already said this. The answer is go practice. Here's the info. You get the info. Go practice. Right. That at some point,
Well, see, that's
a
what I
lot of,
think of when you say coach. I think of practice.
right. So for me, coaching, the definition that I kind of come back to all the time is the communication of relevant knowledge. right? So first you have to have the knowledge. You have to be able to see what the problem is. And that's the fun part, is actually like, whoa, what's happening here? Why is this a problem? And that's where all of the that's where all of these kind of beginning years that you're seeing me go through, and maybe you went through yourself, where it's like, whoa, I'm seeing things, and then it's like, why is this happening? What is the chain? Where are these dominoes connected? If I pull on this string, what happens? If I pull on this string, what happens? And then you kind of figure out, okay, this is a non-system. It's chaos, but it's actually probably not as chaotic as it looks. So let me create some structure here. Let me figure out how to make this mess work. Let me find out, what pieces are we working with? How do I take the pieces that I have and optimize them? That's the fun thing. It's systems optimization, which is your job. That's your job. You like literally take audio systems and you
Make them as good as possible.
optimize them.
Right.
Right. And so for me, that's the fun part of coaching. And I imagine with your job, that's the fun part. Right. And by the time you see the same problem over and over and over again, it's like, okay, they're throwing down, they're throwing nose up because they got the swoop, because they're over the top leg. Fix your posture. I already said this. Like, I already solved this problem. Can you just like listen to what I already said? It's like, I'm trying to find new and different problems to work on. So for me, it's like, okay, I'm creating these videos so that I don't have to keep answering the same problem I already figured out.
Right.
And because that's boring to me, to continually answer, what's 2 plus 2? 4. What's 2 plus 2? 4. What's 2? We've already answered this. I'm going to write it down on a sheet of paper. If you forget, you can look at it. And I'm going to go find out what 3 plus 3 is. So, and that's why what we do is so fun, because we've got YouTube, which is like, YouTube videos are really fun to figure out. We do some like crazy stuff here where it's like, there's so many different pieces, where it's like the retail side, like, oh, this is a new puzzle. These are totally different pieces. Retail. Oh, tournaments. It's a totally different puzzle. Oh, so anyways, if I had to guess, I bet that's what you find fun as well. And that's why you don't want to do it forever, because it's the monotony of the thing. It's like, okay, you've seen 2,000 people, means you've seen 500 people with the exact same problem. It's not new. It's not interesting. So, 2008.
Well, when I look at the same problem, I try to think of different ways to solve it.
Right. But then you run out of iterations for that too. Yeah, well, I agree and I disagree. Because people are unique, right? So the way that they think about things is different. So you kind of always find new ways to explain based upon how different people think. They have the same problem and they understand things a different way. So now it's, how do I get this person to do the solution with their weird way of thinking? And so then you kind of store up, okay, here are like the 7 different ways I've learned to explain this problem. And these 7 different ways work for most people. One of these 7s, I'm going to plug and play, and I can get rid of nose up in 7 different ways. What's going to work for you? On the rare occasion, and I'm assuming that this is super rare for you with the vast amount of work that you've done, you find a need to create an 8th.
A what?
An 8th.
Oh.
Right? But probably you had 7. For 7, that'll work for almost everybody. And then you have 8. And then it's a long time again before you have to create a 9th. Right? It's basically, you found 192 ways to teach people leverage and balance.
Solve for X.
Yeah. Yep. All right. That was an interesting portion. I'm going to stop using the word interesting.
But so I think we might have different definitions of coach. Like, when I think of coach, it's like very structured, like team, go out, write down the set on the board. You're going to do 50 100s every 3 minutes. And then you just watch what's going on. Um, but like more like a swing coach, I guess, like in golf, like they're not a permanent fixture. They're just there to help fix the mechanics. Like a clinic more than a coach, I guess, is what I would prefer, or I don't know. Like, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, a swing coach, you just to clarify, you said a swing coach is not a permanent fixture,
Right.
right?
You go to
Okay.
swing when something's off.
Right, right. And your coach, and this comes largely, I would imagine, from your swimming background, right? Team-based sports. Those, we call them coaches,
Right.
um, but they act more as a manager role.
Like a teacher, like
Right.
in a
It's
classroom.
here's the homework assignment,
Right.
do it, turn to page whatever, right? Yeah. And then you have a swing coach, which is like only for the swing.
Right.
Yeah, for me, I guess coach is much more based off of a tennis background, even though it was just weird because it's weird in one sense because I did a lot of team sports growing up and I had a lot of managers and I think of them as managers, but I call them coach. So
Well, that's what
yeah,
I'm kind of thinking of as a manager.
right. You're thinking of something. You're bringing up something in me I didn't know was here. So, um, yeah, but I think of a coach like tennis is like, okay, your coach is going to be helping you with form stuff. Like a coach goes, what are your goals? Okay, well, off season, we're going to work on your form and I'm going to be your swing coach, but it's all one person. So there's a swing coach. And then you have on season, you know, you have preparation, tournament prep, shot selection, things like that. And now you're coaching them in a different aspect. And it's more of like you're there. Like you are their coach. And if you need to send them to a specialist, like, hey, you need to get with strength and conditioning. You need to get with so and so because he's going to help get you strong. And then you communicate to so and so. These are the movements that they're doing. This is where they're weak. I need them to have stabilization training. I need them to have explosivity training. But that person's just a strength and conditioning coach who's specialized. Okay. So your definition of coach is which one? Manager?
What we were talking about earlier, yeah. Like,
Yeah. So you would hate to do the managing side
it's
of
too much
coaching where it's
structure.
like,
I don't like structure.
yeah, yeah. That's why coaching, like the all inclusive coach, is way more interesting to me because the projects are new and you see them play. Like I went to USWDC and I followed two of my players and it's like, hey, like let's go walk the course. Let's do course prep. Then I'm watching and I'm taking notes of, okay, here's the stuff that's going to need to change during the off season. Here's the stuff that, we talk about after this. Here's the stuff that we do not talk about now. Um, yeah, that's kind of a coach in my mind, and that translates to
So
a much wider variety of things.
where I would tell someone to go to another coach, I guess, would be like approach shots and putting. Like, I'm not confident enough to teach that because those are weak points in my game.
Interesting. I said I was going to stop saying interesting. I guess everything is interesting to me. Curious. Um, yeah. So, is that would you be more confident if you understood them? Because I think a lot of coaches actually get worse as players. For example, I'm a great putting coach, but man, it makes me a bad putter.
There's definitely a thing to that because, like, trying to think of how to do it wrong, you can't progress as far as you could not thinking about those things.
Right.
Like, why is this guy screwing that up instead of thinking of, well, I need to nail this down myself and keep going?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, when I play a tournament, the issue now is as a coach, all those like things that we're plugging into people's mind. It's like, how can I say this differently to solve this problem? When they go do tournament stuff and they say, "Oh, I'm missing right," it's like, okay, we think automatically. Like, what do you think of automatically if they're pulling everything right? What's happening?
On putting,
No, on drives.
on a drive, they're either swinging too early or they're too open.
Right. Yeah. So we go, okay, I missed to the right. Now I'm playing a tournament. I missed to the right. And then your brain goes, okay, what does that mean? I'm opening my shoulders too early. I'm too open. Uh, okay, how do I fix that? And now you're a player and you're like, well, how would I tell a student to fix that? And once you go down that road, it's game over because you got 7 different cues that you can use to fix that. And you don't know which one goes to player Josh or player Andrew. It's like, oh, I done messed up. It's like, then you just try all 7 and none of them work. And you're like, shoot, I'm the 8th guy and I didn't even know. So yeah, it makes playing very interesting, but I, hmm, but do you, yeah, I guess I coach it all. Are you interested in being more of that coach then? The coach that's the multi-tool coach, the all-inclusive coach?
What?
The coach. So we were talking about different types of coaches.
Oh,
And you said you didn't want to be a coach. And we talked, you said, well, I didn't want to be a manager type coach,
right.
right? And is the other type of coach the one that it's working with the player through their off season that can go from swing coach to course prep to season prep to shot selection to everything? It does that interest you? Like if you had just a couple of students that you could follow around and you retired and you could do that, would you go for that?
Maybe.
Maybe.
It's my non-committal.
Yeah, I can see that.
Mikey flexing.
Okay. What? Yeah. This is so different than I thought this conversation would go, but it's okay.
Occasionally I do putt good, like I can't miss, but then I lose it.
Wait. You struggle with putting?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Add another one to the list. Okay, this is a thing with disc golf coaches. And um okay, so yeah, this is a thing with disc golf coaches. What's wrong with your putt? The shank right?
The short putt.
Oh, the short putt. Okay.
The doink. Doink.
Oh, from how far?
Short.
Okay. I got you. You leaving? Yeah. Okay. I just press stop record and then okay.
Mikey.
Okay. He says bye, Mikey.
Bye, Seabass.
Bye, Mikey.
He also says hello.
Hello.
Um, interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of coaches that struggle with this. With putting, I could go into the list, but it's basically all of them.
A lot of it's time, I think. Because
Some of it's time. A lot of it's that putting is so feel based. Have you ever coached putting?
no. Well,
Okay.
you online, but
Yeah. I'm unapologetically, I am a great putting coach. I can fix someone's putt right away, and it's so annoying. Anyways, it's like, but when it comes to your own putting, put some pressure on that bad boy. That's tough. That is tough. So, okay, interesting. I said it again. Okay, now before we move out of your personal coaching section, the thing I want to know is there anything that you previously taught that you've changed your mind on? Are there like unlisted videos that or deleted videos that you're like, this I taught and now it's just wrong?
there was a couple. I had a what was that? Bottles and cans. Um, So it was like it's actually part of it in the turbo encabulator where I'm doing the double crush to can.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know if there was really anything wrong with it. Um, there was a
But
diagonal stance
it's
video.
not on the channel anymore.
No.
So why did you take it down?
Um, because when I taught the thumb push, it was to roll under. So I think it's a little more over. But I mean, you can do it either way.
Really?
Yeah. If you watch KJ Nibo, you'll see him do it, and Kyle Klein.
Is it because they're already supinated back there?
Hmm.
Okay,
Well,
so they go from pretty supinated to they pronate into the hit.
hmm.
Yeah, I tried to figure out how to make a throw that you could pronate into the hit with because I thought, well, pronating is just a stronger motion. Supinators are generally not that strong of muscles. And all I can do is I could grip it like a thumber and throw a backhand that way. But the issue is spin, actually. You have to take something really overstable. And you can throw it like that. You have to take like a Firebird or something and it pops up and over and actually S curves because there's no spin on it.
So Ken Klima had an article where he talked about rolling under and rolling over. So he say with the understable plastic, you got to roll under on hyzer. But if you want to throw anhyzer, that's when you supinate.
I see. So to me, that it becomes kind of dangerous because you're just begging for nose up if you pronate, right? But
I
if
don't think so.
you just have to supinate like crazy beforehand.
No, I think uh, nose angle isn't that simple because you're throwing a hyzer, so it's a little different where the nose is.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Continue.
Because the nose is always where the disc is going. It's always moving on the disc.
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's it.
What was the
I mean, it could keep going. Like, why does it change on hyzer? Because you pull it across, you can pull it across your body more and finish more right than normal. Because
well, it depends on the shape shot you're trying to do, I guess. So you could throw the nose more up and then get more of a fade out or a sweeping hyzer, or you could throw a little
right,
nose down.
but it'd still be nose up in reference to the plane of the throw, right?
Hmm. Well, it depends.
Okay, this is what I'm curious about. Is it depends on what I.
Well, because nose is all at point of release, so it doesn't really
Mhm.
matter what you're doing. It's at the moment of release. So as long as you're
Yes,
focused on the right point, you're gonna get there.
correct. Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I'm just thinking practically. If you're pronating a lot into the hit, I mean, I guess you can
Because
barely pronate.
so you can internally rotate and go under your shoulder instead of if you supinate up like KJ USA or Wiggins,
Hmm.
like Drew does the under. So because you can't keep going straight across your
Nope, I missed
shoulder,
that.
like what's that?
I missed the point there. So
So
you can go down like this, but that would put the nose up in reference to the swing plane, right? You technically can do whatever you want and have the nose down at swing plane or have the nose down at release in reference to swing plane and be totally fine. But pronating generally gets the nose more up than before you start the pronating. That's what I'm curious about. Why does it depend on the shot? Or give me an example of when you can pronate into the hit and keep it nose down. Unless you've already started it. Let's say you start at 10 degrees nose down and then you pronate to 4 degrees nose down.
well,
Right? That I can understand is you can start at 10 degrees nose down in terms of hand angle, which I'm understanding you're saying that's not nose down because nose down only matters at the hit. But in terms of like hand relation, you would go to the hit, and if you kept the same hand position,
But you can. Let me get a disc.
yes.
So you can't throw straight across with the elbow because you're going to bottom out. Same thing with the shoulder. So you either have to go rotate under or rotate in, or you rotate external and up.
Mm-hmm.
But with when you come out the pivot of the disc, you can still pronate under and get the nose down if you're pushing on it.
Okay, I got what you're saying. Because you would actually roll. To me, that moment looked so like Anthony Barella is an under guy. So I thought what was happening is, boom, he hits his nose angle, and then in his follow through, he pronates under. Or he pronates after the disc is gone. Right?
Well, it's all happening during, because you're just seeing the release of that. Because he's pushing against the disc, and then it just releases.
Mm-hmm. To me, that seems like the same way of saying like you're very supinated at the beginning, so supinated that if you stayed with that same amount of supination into the hit, it would be extremely nose down. Right? But instead, you can't do that. So you go pronate, and now you're down. Let me grab a disc. Hold on.
Taking the jacket off.
Yeah. I was like, why is my face hot? It's like, because I put on sweats and a jacket. Okay. So I'm going to show this. Mikey doesn't like it when I get far away from the mic for purposes. But if you start here, right, and I keep the same position here, this would be super nose down. Right? I'm keeping my hand in the same position or my palm in the same position.
Well,
right?
It depends on how it comes out, though. When it comes out the pivot.
Well, isn't it going to go like that and it's going to stay down?
It depends on where you're pressing.
Where would I press differently?
Well, it just depends on how it's going to come out of the pivot.
Right, but generally it always comes out the same. Right? Or are you telling me that there's some secret, something I don't know?
Maybe.
I mean, what is it?
I don't know.
So if we take this, it's gonna rip out of my fingers and go around like this, right? So if I hit like this, it's going to pivot there. It's not going to go like that and pop up.
I can't see it.
Right? So if I hit like this, it's going to roll around. Sorry. How about this? Is that better?
Yeah.
It's going to pivot like that.
Right.
Right. It's not going to pivot like this. It's not going to go all of a sudden on my nose up.
It could.
How?
I don't know.
Oh. I thought you knew this whole time. Okay. But you don't know of a way for that to happen.
For what?
For it to be nose down here and then pop out of my hand nose up.
Well, I'm not following. Because the nose is the nose.
Right. The nose is here. And then as it pivots out of your hand, every part of the disc is going to be nose down by the time it pivots around. Right? Because of gyroscopic precession and all that jazz, right?
Did you freeze?
No. I mean, I froze to see your reaction.
So, I don't know. It's just how it comes out.
Yeah. But it's going to come out for example, that there's no way for this disc to come out of my hand anything but nose down, right? It's not going to flip to nose up, right? Because the back edge of the disc is going to swing around.
Right.
That's going to come down.
Right.
And so by the time the back edge gets here, it's going to be nose down. So every edge of the disc is going to be nose down if when I hit, it's nose down.
Right.
Right. So my arm is supinated right now. So if I pronate into this hit and I hit like this.
Well, it's not doing it like that. It's just a little bit, but because there's going to be inertia that you're pushing against. So it kind of stays level, but at the end you see it release because you're doing that force before, and then you see it on the release.
I don't understand. Unless you're saying, okay, so here's what I could get. You could be pressing technically with your thumb down, and your index finger would then be lifting up. Is that right? So you're talking about a redirect directionally. Let's say, for example, I'm Eliezer, and I'm here, and my swing is kind of down, right? By the time I come here, if I'm pressing down, I could theoretically pop it like that and kick the backside of the disc down as it comes out of my hand.
Right.
Is that where you're getting at?
Yeah.
And so, okay. You got it. And so you could theoretically go from here and pronate and then hit these fingers and pop up from underneath the disc and pinch down with your fingers like that to flip it nose down at the last second.
Pretty much.
Okay. So now let me think. This is like a quiz. I'm like putting it all together. Okay. So super supinated here. If I kept this, it would be nose down the whole time. Right? So this is pour the coffee. This is nose down no matter what I do because that's nose down. I could go boom and pop my thumb down. Okay, hold on. I got to get that to be pronating motion.
But you can also have nose up supinated.
You can have nose up supinated, but you would have to be pressing. Okay, if we go here, here's supinated, and now nose up. If I go, my grip would have to be really weird.
So that's nose up.
But that's because of the ulnar deviation is you pop that up. Right?
Not really. That would be ulnar deviation.
Yeah, is ulnar deviation specifically down?
Yeah.
What's this one?
What? I can't see your
up.
That is radial deviation.
Radial deviation, right? You're popping it with radial deviation.
So I guess it could depend on your orientation of the wrist.
Right. This would be nose down. This would be nose up, almost no matter what you did.
I think it might reverse if your wrist is the other way.
It might reverse if your wrist goes the other way. What does that mean? What does that mean?
So, ulnar deviation
would be nose down
and roll over. Well, but you could still.
You can supinate to compensate for not enough ulnar deviation. For example, I can throw 16 degrees nose down. I can throw 16 degrees nose down with ulnar deviation and supination. I can throw 10 degrees nose down like this.
Have you thrown on the field doing that?
Yeah. It goes in the dirt.
Did you get
Anyways, that was
negative lift?
a very negative. Yeah, it drops
Yeah.
for sure. Okay. So here we are solving nose angle stuff. I don't know where that goes. I don't know where that goes in the podcast. Might go in the bonus content, but that's interesting. Yeah, because I see the pronation happens and it gives you a larger range of motion on this back end, right?
Right.
Versus here. But you see this all the time. For me, that seems like it's easier to get the nose down at the hit if you just go here because you're not pronating afterwards. And the pronation, like when you throw approach shots, you pronate. And you throw that thumb down so that you get the nose up.
Depends on the shot.
An approach shot.
I'll do it both ways.
What do you mean?
It depends on what I'm throwing. Anheuser or Heiser.
No, but if you threw an Anheuser and you pronated, this would now be nose up in relation to where you're going. Right, so this would be a nose up Anheuser if you pop your thumb down, if you pronate. A nose up Heiser would be that. Right, nose up flat would be this. That's why your approach shot's messed up, man. No, you haven't thought of that before? That's like not how your brain does nose angle?
No. It's all just what happens at the end.
Well, yeah. The orientation of the disc at the end is all that matters. And I think the pressing has very little to do with it unless at the very end you go pop. But again, you pushing down here is pronating more. You lifting up is supinating more.
But it's going to depend on where your release point is. Like it could be in a different spot and change it.
Right, but given that the release point, that you hit the same amount, let's say you could pick the same feel of supination at the release point every single time. Like, for example, this, in my mind, is racket face, string angle at contact. You can recreate that. And then you can adjust for certain situations, right? You're on your back foot, they hit a hard one at you, whatever. But you can recreate very similarly the same hand and body position, right? I think you can do the same thing with forearm angle, so supinated or pronated. And you can memorize that feel in that position and say, boom, I always hit here. And if you always hit here, like this is nose down for me, no matter what angle I'm throwing. This arm position. And if I'm throwing at you with an Anheuser, nose down Anheuser. If I'm throwing at you flat, which that's nose down flat. And if I'm throwing Heiser, that's nose down Heiser. And I've kept the same position in relation to my body.
I don't know.
Okay. Hey, I'll take an I don't know. I will 100% take an I don't know. Honestly, I wouldn't have been surprised if you're like, that's total crap. But
I'll do some research.
Yeah. Think about it. So, okay. Now, this is the portion of the show that I was really that was part 1 of the show. Part 2 is going to go much more quickly, I think. Okay. So now we're through personal coaching, and wherever that tidbit on nose angle and figuring that stuff out is going, I have no clue. Have fun, Mikey. And then now what I'd like to do is I'd like to go through the history of disc golf coaching with you, because I think you either are aware of all of it or have been through all of it. And just for you to kind of put us in eras of coaching and for us to kind of identify major players, things like that. Because you're perfect for this, because I think that you have not just been through it, but I'm pretty sure you've consumed every piece of disc golf content out there by everyone who's ever put out disc golf content, instructional content.
until recently, because there's just an explosion of people out there.
Right. Okay. So let's build the history here, or help me understand the history. So pre you coaching, who was the first kind of coach, or first coaches?
Donna Pace?
Yeah, probably. I mean, okay. I guess so, because beveled edge and all that. He's kind of engineer guy. I would assume that you're pretty confident with that.
Because, yeah, he created the bevel edge, and then he was world distance champ, and he coached a bunch of distance champs.
I didn't even know that. Wow. Okay, so he's got his own era of Dunapace and beveled edges.
80s, 90s.
Okay. Then what was next?
I guess Stokely would be in there. Late 90s.
Okay. So Stokely, was in the same era as Dunapace, but maybe a little bit after.
He was later, but yeah.
Okay, so you've got Dunapace, then you've got Stokely, and Stokely's before your era.
Yeah.
Okay. And anybody else with Stokely?
Papa Scott or Scott Papa, Mark Ellis.
I've seen that name before.
Seen the old Discraft videos. More distance now.
I've got you. This is in it's just like the Dion days.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Dion was a little after that, I'd say.
Okay.
Marty Peters.
Mm-hmm. And this is all in the same kind of vein of coaching, right? They're all teaching basically the same things.
Not really. Kind of depends.
Okay. Yeah. What I know, Dave Dunapace has always been about the whip, trebuchet type deal.
He created did the arc on the bent elbow reach back. So basically like Seppo or Calvin Emerson.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so we got Dunapace and we got Stokely and Papa Squatch, Papa Scotch,
Scott.
Papa
Scott
Papa Scott Papa. Okay, and then who's next? Now is it your era?
Then it would be Beto, Dan Beto.
Okay.
Bradley Walker.
Bradley Walker was in the same era as Beto?
Yeah, just after.
Okay, interesting, because Bradley's big video was more snap.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Okay, and you started in 2008. That's when you started learning your form, so you still got another. So after Bradley Walker, now Bradley Walker kind of gets two different eras.
Yeah.
Right? You got Bradley Walker 1, who was in the same vein as a lot of people, in terms of like no rotational stuff kind of entering the sport yet.
Hard to say. He was still teaching the straight line pull, but like the way he taught throwing the back end of the disc out was, I guess, different than most people at that time.
But good different.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that was kind of a welcomed, his 2009 more snap video or whatever it was called. Was like, whoa, this is great.
It was
right,
mind breaking to me. I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah, and I guess what I was trying to build on earlier with the nose angle thing was like, yeah, if you've got that back end coming around, like that's what I use kind of for. Well, we don't have to get into all that, but that end, if you have a pivot point, that end is going to go like this around the pivot. It's not going to go here and then flip up unless you do something crazy with an actual press.
Right.
So that's all I was saying with that. But yeah, then here's something else that might be crazy is a hyzer takes that back end and it goes up and right with it. And a flat shot goes just around to the right, and the anhyzer goes down and right, kind of technically. You want to throw it a little bit up, actually, so it doesn't dive in the dirt. But that's like how I started understanding angle control. So that's just a freebie in case you needed one. Okay, so Bradley Walker, and then we got to be pretty close to,
Yeah,
Blake T.
well, Blake never did any videos, so everything just
Okay,
was on the forum.
I gotcha. Okay, so then it's you and Loop.
Yeah, Loop was after, I think 2014.
Okay, so take me, you, Loop Ghost, Felber's in there, put them kind of in order.
Okay, so Feldberg before me for sure. Yeah, I guess there was like, I don't you remember Disc Golf Monthly? I don't know.
I do remember Disc Golf Monthly.
They always had like technique things in there every once in a while. So
I'd never paid attention to those.
Steve Brinster was on there. He did the hop.
Okay, I was gonna say, I know the Brinster Hop. Paul talked very favorably of it. Which, you kind of look at it and it's like, okay, when did Yuli start teaching? When did Philo start teaching?
So I got advice from Philo pretty early on, probably 2010-ish.
Okay. So it goes Bradley and then Philo-ish in there. Mike Strauss, Yuli's coach. At what point did he start coaching?
I didn't hear about him until a couple years ago.
Okay. Got it. And then Danny Lindahl.
I remember Danny's first video.
Yeah, what was that like?
He was sitting on a couch, and he was like talking a million miles a minute. We're like, dude, slow down. He might have been like 15 or 16 then.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the couch. I remember the couch videos. That's for sure. Yeah, it's funny. He said that he got into the game, or the YouTube coaching game, because there was too much field-based stuff for him. He was like, I need more of the information. And I thought, like, man, is Loop Ghost and Seabass like field-based stuff? And I, like, now thinking about it, it's like, absolutely. You're just elephant walk and all that's just like leverage and swingy. It's just feeling swingy. That's your whole teaching method right there. Feel swingy. Get swingy.
Feel swing.
Okay, so you and Loop Ghost, okay, so I've got kind of an idea there. And then after that,
Richard Hatton was in there from UK Disc Golf.
Okay.
Who else was around? I mean, there was some stuff from Double G out there.
Mm-hmm. And then we get into Bradley Walker spin and throw version, right?
Yeah, it was a bit later.
Who
else was there? Hey, Randy Clayton or Raleigh from Finland Disc Golf.
Never heard of him.
He, I think it's all in Finnish, but they have good translations.
Oh, is he the? I think I've seen that video. That was just a little while ago, though, right?
Yeah,
he did it all in Finnish, and then they did an English version of the same video. He was like in a gymnasium. And he's what was a phrase he was using? Angular momentum. Right?
He was one of my students from DGCR, as well as Loop Ghost and a couple other guys.
Wait, Loop Ghost was one of your students? Okay. Wow, that's crazy. I was talking to John and I was like, hey, to be a like bona fide disc golf coach, you've got to have one of your students make it to YouTube. So I didn't know you doubled up on that. Okay, so then it was kind of spin and throw after that. Because that started in
18,
when?
19.
Oh, okay. Not that long before before we got into the game. I guess
Mm-hmm.
a year or 2 years. Okay, interesting. And Chris Taylor's been doing it for a while, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I never really heard about him until the past year or two.
Right. He wasn't like big on posting in the disc golf course review and all that.
Right.
And then you've got us, the worst generation. No, I have a TV show and they call it part of the worst generation where it's like this boom. And it's just like, okay, you've got us, you got Yanni, you got Slingshot, you've got John Acid, he's in this.
Robbie C.
So Robbie C, I've got him on my list as well, yeah. Yeah, of course Robbie's in there. So okay. Interesting. So from that timeline, we basically in the beginning had a big there it was already a mixing pot of form advice. Then it wasn't like, okay, like this generation came up and in 2015, 16, 17, these guys started bringing all this rotation crap in here and ruining everything. It was like there was already a hodgepodge of stuff.
So back in the day, it was right pectoral.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
That was the prescription. Um,
yeah.
and then there's squish the bug. Uh,
Yeah, so I guess even as far back as Beto, there's always been this kind of because the rotation happens, right? It's just when you start chasing the rotation first instead of as a byproduct, things get really weird.
so I don't know if you know searching for Silky on Reddit. He's one of the moderators there, but he did a video that was basically spin and throw before spin and throw. It was like almost identical. And Bradley's like, "This is nobody's ever done this before," and I was like, kind of been done."
Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I wasn't as messed up as I thought then. I thought I was. It's like I uh I see it. It's hard because you see rotation so readily available to the eyes. It's like, man, I see it. They start here and they finish here. It's like, how do you get there? Just rotate. It seems simple enough. Anyways, okay, well thanks for the history lesson there. I was what did it look like from your view? I mean, okay. I always see people when I see YouTubers and things like that, and it's like they come in and you kind of got an idea like, okay, maybe this person's not going to make it as a YouTuber, right? Or as a coach. So you've just been around long enough to see people, pop up and fall off and pop up and fall off and new trends name or same song, second verse. Well, I mean, what's it like for you? You've been around forever. You you see them come and go. It's just like, oh, just another one.
I don't know if it's been. I mean, I think it's just life happens. They just fade
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. So easy to do that. Okay. Okay, so for this next section, I'm going to put myself in the hot seat. Um, so backstory, you being the bastion of knowledge that you are, I once asked you on how much of my original coaching you agreed with and how much you currently agreed with. Now, the audience should know that you were reluctant to answer this question. It's not like you were just chomping at the bit, like, yeah, I've been waiting for this guy to ask me this. But back on March 20th of this year, so a while ago, actually, feels like forever, you answered that question by saying, like, okay, originally when you started, I agreed with maybe 33%. And then as of March 20th of this year, 2023, you'd agreed and bumped that number all the way up to 66%, which I thought was a huge increase. I was pretty happy with it, actually. So I had the 66% approval rating from Seabas. Now, what currently is the Seabas approval rating of Overthrow? and I know you won't mince words, and it's not going to hurt my feeling. I might be shocked if it's less than 66.
I'll say 82.
82. Hey, that is great. In my mind, I'm progressing at lightning speed. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Now, okay. So that wasn't the final question. That's actually going to lead me into a new section of the podcast that I'm going to introduce today called the shift. So this section, how this works is I want you to take that 18%, somewhere in that 18%, something that you disagree with from me, and I want you to change my mind or try to shift my perspective on.
I can't think of anything offhand. I don't know if it's.
Dang, maybe
I don't think.
maybe it's higher than 82% then.
I think it's just missing stuff. It's not
Oh,
out there.
okay. What is missing?
The shift.
The weight shift. Okay. Well, I'm gonna actually have a video pretty soon on it, but yeah, that move that's a couple inches, and actually, I'm thinking I haven't watched it in a while, but the load the bow drill with the door frame, I have to reacquaint myself with that video because I have been using a door frame. I don't know if I'm copying exactly what you did in the video or not. I just know you used a door frame, and I know that stretches you and all that stuff. And then there's a very easy way to teach the shift via that drill, or potentially modifying it. I don't know if you do it or not. Do you teach the shift based off of that drill?
Some of it.
Okay. Hey, I'm going to run this by you because you're going to love this. All right. Maybe you'll hate it. How do I do this? I can't do it in here. Actually, I lied. Okay. So your door frame drill, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong. But door frame drill, door frame on the left side, grab, let it stretch you, right? And then here, the shift is you let go.
Yep. And you should.
That's it.
Drop a couple of.
And you drop literally 2 or 3 inches because your toe was on the ground before, and then you go, boop, and pop your hand off, and then you're on the front leg.
Right. It's automatic.
Boom. Boom. How many percentage points did that give me?
But still,
3
people do it wrong, so.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I'll still do it wrong. Guaranteed. But it actually is very easy, and I can do it lefty now if I mean, not throwing a disc, but I can demonstrate the move. So anyways, there's going to be a video where I show that. Is that what your door frame is, your load the bow drill does? Mm-hmm. Do you go over that in that video?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well then, what's going to happen is I'm going to say this is the greatest drill ever. We're going to have a video of like my favorite drills from other coaches, basically. So that's going to be one on there. Do I get the Seabass approval on that?
Yep. I think it's one of the best drills.
I think so. It's just so easy. I had a guy in here the other day, and it's like, look, dude, do this, and they could feel it right away. It really is a great drill. Yeah, I've been using that. Okay, cool. Well, hey, the shift as a section on the podcast, that was very easy. I was waiting for something a little harder than that. Okay, stuff missing. Hey, that's encouraging to me. Okay. Now, usually,
I guess you had it
super
before.
late.
Because you had that.
I had what?
You had that video before that you took down. So that was what I was disagreeing with before.
Oh, yeah. I took down 2 brace videos. Is that what you're talking about?
Spinning to the brakes?
Yeah, I was squishing. Yeah, in tennis, all they teach you is load and explode. And then they just say, like, rotate your hips and stuff like that. It's like, I don't know. We talk about rotation a lot, and I didn't know this whole time. Now I look at tennis, and I'm like, oh, I see what they're doing. But it's just like the information is so much more limited.
But it's interesting, you'll see squish the bug in baseball still, but not golf. Like nobody in golf teaches that.
Um, must be for some accuracy reason, right?
Well, the main difference between batting and hitting a golf ball is that you have to react to the pitcher. So you want to be really explosive off that back leg because
Mm-hmm.
you can't wait that long on a pitch.
Right. And your hips, your front foot being open, your hips being more open right away helps you have your hands
And
more mobile.
it's more about quickness than power. Like in a golf swing, you're trying to, well, at least a long drive, you're trying to hit it
Right.
as far as possible, and you can move all your momentum forward and swing off that.
Right. Yeah, you're generating all the power in golf versus redirecting in baseball.
Right. And baseball's kind of gone backwards because they're now teaching uh, to sit back more and just explode off that back leg.
Is that, I wonder if that's because sitting back more pitches the hips up a bit more and you're going for height and pitchers are throwing faster now. So you can redirect. It's way easier to hit a ball to fence a ball that's going 100 than it was 90.
I don't know.
This is just how my brain works. I started like asking like why is this a thing? Kind of like we were talking about with pros earlier. It's like maybe there's a reason that they're doing this and I just don't understand it yet. But yeah. So maybe there is, maybe we will see.
You know,
Well, I guess I should ask you.
Teacher Man of baseball.
Mm-mm.
So he coached Aaron Judge. He
Someone has commented in my most recent brace video on that. Like, well, it's good enough for Aaron Judge, but it's not good enough for overthrow.
Of course, he's the biggest man in the MLB. But what was I getting at?
Teacher man
Right.
teaches squish the bug.
No. Um, he basically teaches to like change your wrist like that and tilt. But where was I going with this before? Oh, so he explains that he's not teaching power, he's teaching quickness. So it's more of a reactionary thing to get to the ball instead of producing max power.
Okay, I've got you. I mean, there are cases for that in tennis. Surely, it's like there are things that are just faster because you have to have a reaction time and stuff that's just not built for power. It's
Right.
like, yeah, this would be stronger, but no bueno. It's like, actually, you can generate a decent amount of power rounding.
Right.
Like I have done straight arm throws at 65 miles an hour on the tech disc, and it's like, whoa. But there's no shot that becomes a form because it's so inaccurate. Like maybe there's a long drive competition and people like pros start trying that. Sure, maybe it goes up. I don't think it's actually going to be a thing, but the utility of accuracy is just too big to do that in actual disc golf competition. So, okay. Now I've already asked you, but I'm going to ask you again because it is quite late. Do you have a couple more minutes?
Mm-hmm.
So before we let our normal listeners go and close out this portion of the episode, last question. Are there mechanics from other sports that you think are going to find their way into disc golf or that you're surprised aren't in disc golf yet?
Well, movement in general is going to relate to what we're doing. So there's all kinds of crossover from sports you can't even think about.
Sure. But for example, on the forehand side, we have the crow hop opposite. baseball doesn't do it that way.
No.
Right. So do you think that we're ever going to have something like that to where it's like, okay, this is a kind of a mechanic from another sport, but we're not using it the same way. Why?
No, so baseball does have a next step, basically. So the crow hop is well, Ulibarri used to do an old crow hop where his feet never crossed over, but there is what they call in baseball the side shuffle. So that's when the back leg goes behind. So there is that.
Right. But on the forehand side, for example, you don't see anybody doing a cross behind. It's either a hop or a cross in front.
There's some that do a little behind.
I know you know who.
Me?
Oh, it's you. Is it stronger, do you think?
Yeah. It just
Okay.
frees up the backswing, make it bigger.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think it's less accurate?
I don't think so.
Do you throw on Anheuser?
I throw everything.
Interesting. Yeah, there's a pitcher here, or there's a guy who used to pitch here, and he does an actual like X step on his forehand side, and he bombs. He told me one time, he's like, why don't you do it like this? Like, why don't I do it that way? I'm like, I've never seen another pro do it, so I don't know. Ask them. This was before I did form stuff.
I think Germ kind of does it, or used to.
Interesting. Okay, real last question before the section ends. Who is your favorite form for any reason to watch or to use as coaching? What player are you just really loving their form right now?
Current players?
It doesn't matter.
I was a big Brinster fan. Um, Felberg was
Because of the hop. You just like people with hops,
double G.
don't you? hops and real pendulumy swings.
But there's things I like about like Eagle and Simon.
Like what?
Um, their posture. Who else? Kyle Klein's an interesting form.
Yeah.
Everything's very diagonal.
Yes. And it's interesting because his girlfriend Cynthia is like very backwards. Cynthia Ricciardi.
Oh yeah, she walks backwards.
Yeah. He's like, whoa, it's very back, and then she like whips around. Yeah, I noticed at USWDGC that a lot of juniors and a lot of ladies have that big offset. Like they walk very diagonal, they have a huge stagger, and then they whip the torso around, just I guess to get more torque.
Yeah, more
But
torque and getting more space for the disc because with their shorter arms on the younger and females.
yeah, it's interesting. And then they just don't. Some of them just don't grow out of it. You see it all the time on the lady side. It's like, yeah, okay. Well, hey, thanks for tuning into that portion. We are now going to move into our Patreon only portion. Our patrons have submitted questions for Seabass, and I'm going to rapid fire those, and we're going to have a good old time. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you have found this information valuable, please remember to subscribe to Seabas22, Seabas 22 on YouTube. Peace.